Well, hey there, everybody, and welcome to Collider Mailbag, the all mailbag installment here on Collider Video, where all we do is take your mailbag questions. My name is John Campy. I'm the senior producer here at Collider Video. And joining me, of course, is our host, Miss Natasha Martinez. Natasha.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you. And also, again, kicking around the studio this week. We've had so much fun last week. Christian Harloff.
Yeah, he's being nice. He just can't get rid of me.
That might be a little bit of that, too. And hey, listen, like I said, all we do is take your mailbag questions here on this show. It's a much more laid-back, relaxed version of Movie Talk, kind of in a way. And how do you get your question on our show? Same way you do on Movie Talk Monday through Friday. You just email in a question to collidervideo@gmail.com. We take out a couple of questions every day, Monday through Friday, but then we take a whole bunch of them here on the weekends. So with all that out of the way, let's get to our first question.
Okay, Matthew Borst writes, "Hey Collider crew, I've been a relentless Movie Talk fan since you were in John's basement. I am also a huge fan of Bowfinger, like you always smartly encourage people to see. Are there any Hollywood-focused movies that you enjoy? Thanks, and keep up the great work."
Yeah, I really love a good movie that focuses on the mayhem and the circus that goes on behind making a movie. One of my favorites is actually a little comedy. Not a lot of people like it, but it's Billy Crystal, John Cusack, Julia Roberts, Catherine Zeta-Jones. It's America's Sweethearts. And John Malkovich, I believe, is in it as well. He kind of plays like a Werner Herzog kind of director type. It's wonderful. It's fantastic. I love it. It's kind of focused it's really more focused on the whole world of Hollywood junkets, which that's the thing. You won't truly fully appreciate America's Sweethearts unless you've ever been to an actual Hollywood junket. Because if you've ever been to even one, then it's crazy how accurate it is. And I believe it is the first time you ever get a look at Rainn Wilson in a movie. I believe, now, because I believe this came out before Galaxy Quest. I think America's Sweethearts came out before Galaxy Quest. I might be wrong about that. But I think one of those two, because Rainn Wilson pops up as a film critic at a press junket. Very, very small scene, very short scene, but it's kind of cool seeing that. Then what is that one with Timothy Robbins?
That's the one at the Hudsucker?
Yeah, I'll let you take that one then.
I was thinking the Hudsucker, but I mean, because that was one I always remember seeing about the actual process and making of the film.
Or was that The Player?
That's The Player.
The Player,
The Player's the one. Yes. That's actually the one I was thinking of, but the Hudsucker is the other.
Hudsucker Proxy is a different one.
But The Player is the one I was absolutely thinking of, because that's one I always remember as a kid, seeing that and the process of filmmaking. But I actually took the question more in just if there was the Hollywood era and things that were happening, and I took LA Confidential because there were a lot of times
a great one.
there was a crime element, but there was also they had the old school Hollywood actresses and actors part of this crime ring. And I know a lot of people hated it. I don't care because I still like the series and I enjoyed what it was. Entourage was a lot of fun. Entourage was a lot of fun, and it did paint a lot of stuff true to what happens here more so in the television show, but
a little more exaggerated. Yeah. But I remember I didn't start watching Entourage until after I moved to LA. And it was funny because when I first moved to LA, you understand, I'm a Canadian kid, right? And I'm moving to LA. So instead of finding some reasonable housing, whatever, I lived way above my means when I first moved here. And I'm like, I'm going to live right in Hollywood.
You're a star now,
That's
John.
right. I'm living the big life now. And I got this apartment on Sunset Boulevard.
broke in a week.
And it wasn't long. Yeah. So I got an apartment right on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood, across from one of the landmarks that's actually in the opening of Entourage. Okay, I won't lie to you. It's the Seventh Veil Strip Club. I lived right across the street from the Seventh Veil Strip Club.
A landmark.
That thing had flashing lights like a circus calling to children. I swear to God. Anyway, so I lived there and it was like $2,500 a month for a two-bedroom apartment in Hollywood. I didn't last long. But I remember, I was living there for a little while when I first got introduced into Entourage and, started going to the Hollywood junk and stuff like that. And I remember thinking, holy crap, this thing really gets it in an exaggerated way. I remember thinking it really gets it. Do you have anything that you've watched, Natasha, or think about when you think about the lifestyle in Hollywood?
I mean, the most recent one I've watched was The Artist, and I was kind of late on the train. Like when it was nominated, I didn't see it. But when I was at Chapman University, I watched it during one of my classes, and I loved how it just depicted the actor's struggle and what can really happen, and you can go crazy. And of course, the old Hollywood style I loved. So
it reminds you, one I just saw, Trumbo.
Oh yeah, that's a really cool. And then of course the one the person asking the question brought up, Bowfinger.
Oh, yeah.
Bowfinger is so. I know you always hear me and Schnepp going on about Bowfinger,
yeah.
but I'm telling you guys, if you have not seen Bowfinger, probably the best movie Eddie Murphy has, the last great movie I think Eddie Murphy has done. I guess, what's that, Dreamgirls? Dreamgirls came after that. He was a supporting actor in that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like saying that Punch Drunk Love is an Adam Sandler movie. It's a Paul Thomas Anderson movie.
Well, yeah. But Steve Martin, Eddie Murphy, and Bowfinger, if you've not watched it, go watch it. It's hilarious. All right, what's next?
John Davidian writes, while there have been some, do you think we will see a definitive biopic made about the Beatles or Led Zeppelin?
Okay, confession time.
Uh-oh.
I'm one of the few human beings alive. I don't like the Beatles.
Wow.
I don't like the Beatles. Don't get me wrong, there's a couple of their songs. I'm like, but I've grown up, even when I was a musician playing in bands, and every band person I've ever played in a band with, or every musician I've ever known, people who are actually intelligent, they all love the Beatles. My wife loves the Beatles. Everybody loves the Beatles. I don't get the big appeal. I don't get the big appeal to the Beatles. Right now, Scott Mance is screaming into a pillow. Oh, yeah. He's like totally screaming at me through out on the television screen right now. But you're right. There hasn't been, for them or Zeppelin, I was more of a Zeppelin guy than I was a Beatles guy, but for them or Zeppelin, there's never truly been a definitive biopic like a Ray or a Walk the Line or something like that for those two. And you'd think there's a lot of drama in the careers and the lifespan of both of those bands. I mean, you could easily do. I guess the big challenge with the Beatles one, though, is if you do a Beatles one, which story do you tell?
Right.
I mean, because there are a dozen elements of great drama you could surround, whether it's the Yoko Ono thing or whether it's the early days of the Beatles or whether it was like whatever. I don't think one biopic could cover it all. So that's a challenging one. But me, myself, I would be most interested in the Zeppelin one. What about you?
Well, you just said the magic words. It's Yoko Ono. That's probably why they can't get it made. Because she probably still has a lot of the rights as far as what they can and can't do in John's estate. Maybe not. You would assume that it's been approached. And the other thing you mentioned, like Walk the Line, and you mentioned Ray, I believe that both of those movies started to go into production after we lost both of the artists. I think. I'm not sure.
I think you're right.
And I think that eventually we will get a Beatles biopic. I think it'll happen eventually. I just, whether or not that's 5 or 20 years from now. It'll happen. And Led Zeppelin, I'd be very interested in seeing that. See, I'm more of a Stones guy myself. I'm
a huge Stones fan.
I do like the Beatles, and there are a lot of songs that I enjoy, and I think that they do have an interesting story to tell. There's certainly been a lot of movies and stories around the assassination of John Lennon, but I think we're going to see how the formation of them. There's just been certain ways that they've told the story with the Beatles, but not in the way of a Ray or a Walk the Line.
I remember this one press conference, and forgive me if I'm getting some of the wording wrong here, but somebody once asked at a Rolling Stones press conference, and Keith Richards, like seriously, the immortal Keith Richards, they're like, Keith, one of the guys in the press corps asking, Keith, it's been said that if there was a nuclear holocaust, the only things that would survive are the cockroaches and you. What would you do? I'd eat the cockroaches.
Is that what he said?
That's what he said.
So
it was like
good.
Totally right on.
Yeah, he's actually been dead for 20 years.
Yeah, it's just nobody mentioned it to him. Yeah. All right, what's next?
Rick Foster writes, my question is in regards to The Hateful Eight. Could its poor performance at the box office be due to the marketing? I haven't seen it yet for the simple fact that I have no idea what the premise is. With Kill Bill, it was a revenge movie with an Eastern-Western spin. Inglorious Basterds was an alternate version of history surrounding World War II with a band of Nazi hunters trying to assassinate Hitler. Django Unchained was about a slave who escapes, gets rescued, and goes on a vendetta against a plantation owner to rescue his wife. I love all Quentin Tarantino movies, but I need some idea what the movie is about to draw me in, not just the fact that it's another film by him.
Boy, did you ever nail it. You totally nailed it, because until I saw the movie, I had no idea what the hell the movie was about. I knew that Kurt Russell was taking Jennifer Jason Leigh in for a bounty. He was taking her to hang. So I knew that was like one of the elements of the movie, but I had no idea what the hell the movie was about. And it was like, and one of them isn't what they appear to be. Yeah, but in what context? What is it about? And if you bring up the comparison to Django Unchained made $450 million. Like worldwide, $450 million. Hateful Eight's made 60.
Wow.
At this point, it's going to make a little bit more. It's going to make more than that. It's not going to end there. It's a Quentin Tarantino movie, so I mean, it's the same director. You can't say it's because they didn't have a good cast. It's Samuel Jackson, Kurt Russell, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Goggins, on and on. I mean, it's a great cast. It's same genre as Django Unchained was. So what's the difference? The difference is exactly what you kind of pointed out. It was the fact that with Django Unchained, we knew what the movie was about, and in this one we didn't. And it drives me crazy sometimes. And I get in arguments with Schnepp about this. When I hear people say, I prefer trailers that don't tell me anything about the movie. Really? Really? Because that's what we just got. And guess what? Nobody went to go see it. You had a filmmaker whose last film was $460 million at the box office. Now you got his next film, and everybody likes Quentin Tarantino. I'm a big Quentin Tarantino fan. It's only made $60 million. So, I mean, I think you were absolutely right. I mean, they also confused and muddied I feel like they confused and muddied the water a bit. When they came out, once again, Quentin's going to have to learn nobody gives a flying flip about 70 millimeter. Nobody cares. And by nobody, I don't literally mean nobody. I mean a finite percentage of the movie going public. And I think when they came out and they got Weinstein start going, oh, it's coming out first in 70 millimeter. And I think that just muddied the waters for a lot of people. And then they went wide after that. And by that time, I think a lot of people had already made up their minds whether they were going to see the movie or not. By that point, they should have just had a wide release all at once. Forget pumping this 70 millimeter nonsense and just push the movie out and put together trailers that actually told us a little bit about the movie. So I don't know. So I think you're absolutely right. I do think that is the prime. I'm sure there's other things that go into it, but I think the prime culprit for why are you seeing such a disparity between how much Quentin's last movie made and how much this movie made, I think you're absolutely right. It's the fact that they told us and gave us nothing about this movie at all. What do you think?
I think it's a lot of different things, a lot of what you just said for sure. And I think that, and Star Wars had a big part of this as well too, because when you look at something like Django Unchained, when it came out also in around the December into January area, went up against nothing. It had no competition, maybe a couple other things that, remember, before Star Wars, the biggest opening was like 84 million, and that was big. So December was always a ground to where you'd hit nice up top of maybe a $30, $40 million opening weekend, and you just keep building into January. With the blockbuster that Star Wars was, I think that hurt it. And then by the time it came out, I think in wide release, Star Wars was now in its second and third week, and people were going back for the repeat viewings. But I also think that Quentin Tarantino has said some things in the last couple of months, whether it be the comments he made on Howard Stern, or maybe it's about the stuff he said about the police. I think that kind of hurt him a little bit. But I also think that what you guys were saying, what the viewer was saying in his email was absolutely right. And he is one of these guys that his name, you would think, is the star. He's the one director that is actually like the star.
Oh, he absolutely is, and he's earned it.
And I think that Weinstein went in with that mentality, going, we don't necessarily have to show too much. Just tell them it's Quentin's movie. Tell them it's Quentin's movie. Talk about the 70 millimeter. They'll love that. Most film-going fans, like you were saying, they don't care. Show me a movie. What's the movie about? Why am I going to see this? Am I going to see Star Wars for the second or third time, or am I going to go see a new Tarantino movie that I know what it's definitely about? And I do think that Westerns, I mean, I guess I can already see the comments. What about The Revenant? Revenant did really well. Different type of movie.
Django did really well too.
It did, and I think but that goes against. But that's what I'm saying. With Django, you knew it was kind of like a fantasized version of what happened back then, and it was about this slave that revolted, and you knew what it was right off the bat, as where you see just a bunch of people in a cabin talking. Quentin Tarantino or not, it could have pushed people away. It certainly didn't push me away. Even if I didn't have to see it for my job, I still would have wanted to see it, because I am the guy that you say Tarantino has a movie. I don't want to see the trailer. I just want to see it because Tarantino is. But you can't rely on everyone doing that.
I mean, like, now that this has happened, and now that I was going to say Skyfall, what was the most recent Bond film?
Spectre.
Spectre. I knew it started with an S. And, Christoph Waltz did not get great reception for Spectre. He's kind of an underused character, whatnot. And now we got Quentin's first film in a little bit that he's done without Christoph Waltz, not doing so well. Over or under? I'm going to give you a number.
Okay.
73% the chances that Christoph Waltz appears in Quentin Tarantino's next film.
Oh, over.
Me too. Yeah, totally
definitely.
agree. All right, what's next?
It's a good luck charm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eric Toombs writes, do you think now that the Star Wars movie universe is back and we'll have a new movie every year, will superhero movies start seeing a decline in interest?
I've heard this conversation going on for a while. Like I heard a couple of people, and I was kind of just eavesdropping in on this one chain discussion that's going on about how the reason that comic book movies have been able to be so successful the last number of years was because not necessarily Star Wars specifically, but the absence of big grand sci-fi epics. And the biggest name of which obviously would be Star Wars. You could make an argument that Star Trek has been around and doing pretty good. But, so the question was, is the reason for the success of comic book movies because of the absence of Star Wars? And now that Star Wars is back and getting a new Star Wars movie every single year, will this mark or kick off a decline in interest in comic book and superhero movies? Me personally, the answer to that is not just flat out no, but the complete opposite. I am totally a believer in trending behaviors, all right? So I've said this about Marvel and DC, but I think the true is the same of Star Wars and comic book movies or sci-fi and comic book movies. I believe that when I take my cousin, who doesn't go to a ton of movies, and I take my cousin to go see Star Wars, all right? If my cousin has a great time at the theater, doesn't go to a lot of movies, but goes to that, has a great time, enjoys themselves, the popcorn is good, the audience is great, the movie was fantastic, they had a great time at the movies, do you think the chances just went down that he's going to go back and see another movie anytime soon? Or do you think the chances have now gone up that he's going to go back to the movie theater again later and see another movie? The chances have gone up. He goes, he has a good time. That means the next movie coming along is probably going to benefit from that really good experience that he just had at theater. I think the same is true of Star Wars. I think Star Wars got a lot of people into the theaters who haven't been to the theaters in a while. Yeah. Now, not people who've been gone for 20 years, but like people who go to like one movie a year or two movies a year. I think that Star Wars got a lot of people in the cinemas, and I think the vast majority of them had a hell of a good time. And I think now the chances that person, when Deadpool comes out, this movie everybody's talking about Deadpool, I think the chances just went up by 40, 45, 50% that they may now go see Deadpool because they had such a good time in the theater. Would it hurt the comic book genre? No, I think exact opposite. I think it's going to help everything. Rising tide raises all ships. Anyway, what do you think?
I totally agree with you. And I also think those people that weren't getting out to the movies a lot that went and saw Star Wars, what'd they see during the trailers? They saw Batman v Superman in the trailers. They saw X-Men in the trailers. They saw Civil War in the trailers. Like, ooh, I didn't know about that one. That looks good too. It is the age of the geek. It is the age of the geek film. The reason that these movies are doing so well is because the audience behind them, and just because that audience that is so locked in with Marvel and even the X-Men universe, they're not going to go, well, it was a nice run. I'm done watching those characters really develop now because now I can go watch a space epic. They're going to say, more. What else do I have? I have sci-fi. I have Star Wars back in my life, and I have X-Men too. Oh, and I have Batman versus Superman. If you're a fan of that genre, and I think it's a conversation that we had the other day, as long as the stories are being told the correct way and the characters are being developed in a way, you have to look at it more like a television series now. With the DCU and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there are stories that are continue to be told that you want, if you care enough about them, which so far it looks like Marvel Cinematic Universe has done that very well, you're going to want to see more and more and more. Now, it goes back to what you said the other day. If Marvel or DC or whoever, or the next 3 X-Men movies stink, if Deadpool stinks and then Gambit stinks, then X-Men's going to start to take a hit. And it almost did before First Class.
Yes, it did. Yeah.
So it's a matter of the material that's being made, the characters, the casting, everything so far in that genre is being doing right. So until that goes into a decline, it's not about Star Wars. It's about the material being made.
All right. What's next?
Okay, first of all, Derek McGoran, you are my friend because I share this exact same sentiment. When I saw the trailer for Pride and Prejudice Zombies, my question is, do the studios think they can actually make money off of this crap? Thanks for the Great White North.
Well, you know what? Here's the funny thing. I remember when I heard the concept of Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, I was not turned on at all. I was not turned on at all. And I was hearkened back to Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
That's the first thing I thought of, yeah.
Right? And that movie was a total bloody mess. However, all right, I'm going to be honest with you. I saw the trailer And let me jump back to Abraham Lincoln for a second. One of the big problems, if not the biggest problem with Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, which could have been a fun slasher, kind of harken back to Inglorious Basterds, let's rewrite history a little bit and have some fun with it. Instead, the reason Abraham, for me personally as an audience member, the reason Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter failed miserably is because it had no sense of identity. In 1 minute, it thought it was a just fun reimagining history. Abraham Lincoln's using his axe and going around killing vampires. But then the very next minute, it's trying to be a serious commentary on slavery in the US and overcoming slavery and what, Abraham Lincoln ultimately did. And I get it. They tried to mix the two, but instead of making a great amalgamation of the two, they made a movie that felt like it had schizophrenia. Like it just had no sense of real identity. And it was two weird extremes, going from one, then jumping to the other, then going back to the other one. And it just made the whole freaking thing fall apart like a house of cards to me. Now, coming to Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, I watched that trailer, and to me, it felt like, nope, this movie totally knows what it is. This movie has no delusions about what it wants to be. It knows what it is, and it seems to be embracing it. I feel confident after that trailer that I'm going to go in and watch exactly what I think I'm going to get from a Pride and Prejudice and Zombies movie. Fun, action, slash, some corny one-liners, some beautiful girls doing spinning back heel kicks with knives in their heels, cutting off zombies' heads. That's exactly what I think I'm going to get, and it looks like that's what they're aiming to deliver. And because of that, I'm going to admit right now, after the trailer, my anticipation for the film actually went up. It went from like 5% anticipation to about 40% anticipation from the trailer for me personally. So for me, I understand why it didn't work for you, and I understand why it didn't work for a lot of people. I'm just being honest with you, though. For me personally, trailer worked. I don't know. What did you think?
I think the movie worked. The trailer works as far as how it's being set up. Like you were saying, like it unlike Abraham Vampire Hunter and all these other things, that it does seem one tone. This is where we're going to take it, and it's going to be a bit absurd. Here we come. I have no interest in seeing this movie. I Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, I went in there going, oh, this could be cool, and that movie alone has crushed any. I don't care how well it's done. I don't care if Tarantino's next movie. I don't want to see these silly tellings of whether it's a classic tale like Pride and Prejudice or if it's something like Abraham Lincoln. Next he's fighting wolves. I don't want to see it anymore. I like Lily James a lot. I loved her in Cinderella.
Cinderella, she's great. A force to be reckoned with.
I really do. This movie to me, it's too silly. I think it's everything that you said that I think it's going to deliver on all of that. It's just nothing I want to see.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I actually think this movie was in the can before she
did Cinderella.
Before she shot Cinderella. I think it's been in the can for a while.
Maybe so. I mean, but that also makes me a little nervous though too.
No, I could be totally wrong. Maybe they just wanted to capitalize on something, or I don't know. But you saw, you're not so turned on by this trailer. You're with our viewer.
The thing is Pride and Prejudice is like the classic, perfect love story, and everything goes the way it's supposed to, and it's sweet and beautiful. And so why would you want to put hideous zombies in there and just do all this stuff? I mean, I think, and don't get me wrong, I love zombie movies. I love zombie shows. I think it's great in its own context, but I'm not interested, like I'm with you, I'm not interested in seeing that in the Pride and Prejudice world. I think it's going to be funny. Like maybe I'll go see it for a good laugh, but it kind of hurts my soul a little bit.
It's funny, the exact way you describe Pride and Prejudice, like then in my head, I've been thinking, you know what that needs? Some zombies. Maybe a werewolf or two. Maybe a werewolf or two would be kind of cool. All right, what's next?
Okay. EGAC7 writes, hey, Collider crew, I've been watching you since the AMC days. I have a question. There's a petition going on the website change.org for Fox to release a PG-13 rated cut of Deadpool alongside the R-rated cut. I highly doubt this will affect Fox's decision, but that got me thinking. If it's even possible for a studio to release two versions for the same movie in cinemas at the same time. So I wanted to know from you guys if that is even possible.
All right, well, it's a good question, but first of all, let me address the one part of it, which I always have to bring this up whenever the issue of movies and petitions come on. Petitions are the stupidest things in the world when it comes to movies, all right? I'm not saying there aren't good political causes that you should be participating in with petitions, absolutely, but when it comes to the movies and trying to get the studios to do what you want them to do, guess what? They are never listening to you. The only voice the studios hear is the voice of the cash register when you buy tickets to movies, or the silence of the cash registers when you don't. That's the only petition they hear. Now, you can go out and get 100,000 of your friends to sign a petition. We want Deadpool to wear purple. They're not going to listen. They don't. They're not even going to pay attention. They won't even know your petition exists. So just never get involved with a petition when it comes to which direction you think a movie should go, because it's stupid and useless and pointless. That being said, we actually had this question come up about Deadpool and maybe the idea of 2 versions of it going into theaters back before they announced it was going to be rated R. And the answer I gave then is kind of the same answer now. The big problem that you face is not that the studio has a problem with putting out 2 versions of the same movie, not necessarily. Where the real problem comes into play is the movie theaters. Because when Deadpool comes out, they are fighting and competing for screens, number of screens they can get their film on. And movie theaters are not, if the movie theater down the street from you has 6 screens, and they say, okay, we'll give one to Deadpool. Oh, wait, you want another one just so you can put another version of Deadpool that's PG-13? You want us to kick one of our movies out so you can have 2 screens with 2 different versions? They're not going to do that. Plus, let's face it, with a movie like Deadpool, the vast majority of the people who are interested in seeing Deadpool want to see that hard R Deadpool. And so what's a movie theater going to do? Yeah, we'll put this one in this theater that's going to make money, but you want us to take up a screen that's going to make less money because it's PG-13 just so a couple of kids can get in without their parents' permission? Nah. And because of that, there's no point in a studio even broaching the topic of putting out 2 separate cuts. Plus, a movie like the way it looks like Deadpool, because we said for a long time, if you're going to do Deadpool R, go balls to the frickin' wall. Go all the way R. Like as hard, as close to the edge of an NC-17 that you can possibly get, and just go for it. And if that's the case, there is no making a PG-13 cut. It's not like you can just take out 2 or 3 swear words and color the blood black instead of red. No, they ain't gonna cut it. So for Deadpool, it's just impractical. What do you think?
The movie will be 5 minutes long. You do a PG-13. You can't do a PG-13 version, especially, and Ryan Reynolds, I don't think would let it stand.
No way.
Because he has been championing so hard to make this, and throughout the marketing campaign of what he's done, make it R. Now, sometimes what happens is I don't know, and this is not to say that it hasn't ever happened, but I don't think it's ever happened to theatrically release the PG-13 and R. But they certainly have done PG-13 in the theater, and then in Blu-ray or DVD gone to an R, like they did that for the 4th Die Hard movie, for sure. But I don't know if it's ever happened to where it's R and then chopping down to a PG-13 for Blu-ray. I think it's usually the opposite way around. But no, it's not going to happen with Deadpool. It won't work. It's almost like putting it on cable. So you cut out. It loses the impact of it. It loses the language. It loses the feel and the tone of what these guys are going for this round. So it's not going to happen. Petition right in the garbage.
Right in the garbage.
All right, what's next?
Roman Harrison writes, "Hey Collider crew, big fan. I've been watching since forever. My question is revolving around the Hulk's purpose in Thor Ragnarok. Due to the recent casting rumors of Cate Blanchett as Hela or Enchantress and Mark Ruffalo's statements regarding the casting, I wondered whether or not Thor Ragnarok is going to revolve around the Hulk versus Thor premise from the short animated movie where Loki gets the Hulk to battle Thor."
No, I don't think so. And for a couple of reasons. One, I don't think you're going to see them basing any of their feature films on anything they did in the animated thing. They may borrow a couple themes here and there. But for the bigger reason is this. We've got Captain America Civil War, where it's Captain America versus Iron Man. We've got Batman versus Superman coming up. And we've already had Hulk versus Thor in the first Avengers, and Hulk versus Thor and everybody else in the second Avengers. It's a well they've gone to already several times. I personally have no doubt that they're probably, I'm not going to say no doubt, but I highly doubt that they are going to have Hulk fighting Thor again. I just don't think they're going to do that again. I really believe that this movie with Hulk joining Thor, I think it's going to be Thor and Hulk working together, or Hulk and, or Thor and Banner at any rate, and then Hulk pops up when he needs to. I think this is going to be them working together, and because they've just done the other thing so many times already, not to mention you got 2 other movies coming out that are about the 2 heroes fighting. It would just feel like too much. Am I wrong about that?
No, you're not wrong at all. I'd be bored out of my mind if they fought again. It's like, because especially, and I'll be starting to get fatigued. It's like you said, Batman v Superman fighting, and then we're going to have this big fight with a bunch of different superheroes fighting in Civil War. I want to see like a buddy comedy almost, but like or a buddy action movie to that, and that's what I think it's going to do. And I think
there's a little bit of Odd Couple in there as well. Buddy cop with Odd Couple.
But what I think that does is that instead of them fighting each other and going to that kind of lazy device, if you will, is that you give your two characters here from the Avengers a chance to strengthen their relationship. That when you get into the next Avengers movie, I've gone through a circumstance with them, and now in Thor Ragnarok, that I understand why they're teaming up more and why they have a stronger bond than maybe even Hulk and or Banner and Downey had in the
right.
Maybe now Thor is the guy that because I think that he knows that Hulk's going to be able to survive and actually fit in a little bit more out in the universe, and just on Earth, he's like he doesn't fit in on Earth. He's this big. Every time he's in a city, he destroys it. Yeah. But in the universe, he's going to be tiny to some of these things that he's fighting. So I think that the team up between the two of them could really benefit if they strengthen those two relationships, because I want to see them become a buddy team going further in this universe.
All right, last question of the day.
John Santiago writes, "Hi, I'm a huge fan of you guys since AMC. My question is, why doesn't the show The Flash have their series on Netflix? I know that the entire first season is on Netflix, but why not do what Daredevil does? In my opinion, I think the business for the show would be better for them on Netflix. Most of the other comic book shows are on Netflix. Why not The Flash? I'm tired of waiting week after week for the next show to air because The Flash is my favorite show on TV right now. Thank you and have a wonderful day."
Yeah, well, a couple things. First of all, most comic book shows are not on Netflix. As of this moment, there are 2 comic book shows on Netflix, and there's about 8 on network TV. I agree with you, though. I have become a big fan of the way to watch shows. I like binge watching, dude. I got to admit, I like sitting down and being able to watch 5 or 6 episodes right now. The waiting week to week, like some of my favorite shows like Supernatural or things like that I got to wait, or Flash or things like that, I got to sit down and wait for a week to watch another episode. That kills me sometimes. But there are many reasons not to put it on Netflix. Number one, the trend is changing. Very much so it's changing. But as of right now, a hell of a lot more people watch network TV than watch Netflix. They just do. At least, especially for original programming. For original programming right now, I mean, a lot of people watch their movies on Netflix and stuff like that. But for original programming, people still watch network stuff. The other reason you wouldn't want, as a Flash fan, there are 2 big reasons you don't want Flash on Netflix. Number one, if it goes on Netflix, instead of getting 22 episodes a season, you're going to get 10. So your number of episodes are going to drop in half. And I love Flash, and I love every episode of Flash. I don't want it cut in half. But the second thing is this, is if Flash was on Netflix, not only would the number of episodes you get be cut in half, the budget would be cut by 97%. Because I've said this before, I love Daredevil, but they found a way, with Daredevil you can do this, they found a way to make Daredevil approximately for the cost of bus fare. I mean, it's a cheap, inexpensive show to make, man. That is even if you look at like that, the most memorable, best scene of Daredevil season 1, that hallway fight, man. How expensive was that to shoot?
Right.
Nothing. It literally cost them nothing for the cost of a couple of doors they picked up at Home Depot.
They relied on good filmmaking.
Good filmmaking, all that kind of stuff. But Flash, that is a super powered character, and not just strength like Jessica Jones. You could also get away with very inexpensive show to make. Flash is a much higher budget show to make. Now, on top of all that, Warner Brothers is doing Flash, so they're going to put their show on their networks. They own, CW, so they're going to put that on CW. And if it was on Netflix and you couldn't get the crossovers with the Arrow. And so those Arrow, now I'm not a big fan of Arrow anymore. I'm a huge fan of Stephen Amell, but I'm not a big fan of Arrow anymore. But I am a big fan of those crossover episodes. When they do Flash and Arrow crossing over together, I think those are great. If Flash went over to Netflix, that's gone. So I don't think they should. And I think if you're a Flash fan, I think there are 4 very good reasons why, as a Flash fan, you shouldn't even want them to go to Netflix. Apart from that one very good reason, which is all the episodes would come out at once, and that would be awesome. How do you see it?
Well, another thing that you could do if you have the patience to do it is wait till it comes out on Blu-ray, and you can watch them all on Blu-ray if you wanted to do it that way. But you're right in the fact that from the strategy that goes into it from WB is it's strategized as a network show. You have more budget, you have the crossover, you have the amount of money that they get from sponsorships in order from the commercial breaks that pays into the production and being able to pay the talent and all that stuff. But this email is also the reason why network is terrified of Netflix and Amazon for that reason that you said alone, is the fact that everyone loves to just watch it. Like I watched Bloodline with my wife, and we just that was the three days for the 3 days, and we knocked out the whole season. And it was just a matter of, we were binge watching, we were so into it, we didn't want to wait anymore. And I think that networks know that people want more and more and more of that. I think especially as our generation starts to become the ones that are in charge of the networks, and I think that streaming is going to be the way of the world. I think streaming is eventually going to take over the networks. Eventually.
Well, I think you're going to see the networks adopt streaming.
Yes.
And you're seeing that happen more and more because for a long time, like guys like me and Dennis would say, man, because I'm a cable cutter. Like, so I haven't had cable at my home for almost 2 years now. Right. I got a Roku, and that's how I watch almost all my programming. But like the one thing I really miss is ESPN. Yeah. Now, thankfully, though, I've got the Sling app, and you can watch ESPN live. But, like guys like Dennis and myself have said, hey, man, once ESPN puts their thing on streaming, because HBO now has a streaming service.
Right.
Showtime now has a streaming service.
And they're still developing them, though, too. They're still not as great as Netflix. But
Stars now you can get as a streaming service as a standalone or in cooperation in addition to Amazon Prime.
Right.
And ESPN is announcing that they're going to be streaming their stuff, too. CBS has been doing a lot of streaming. NBC now has an app on Roku where you can watch all the shows there. So I think you're going to see a lot of these networks adopt the streaming philosophy. Now, here's an interesting thing. I noticed this. Yeah, I'm going to bring it up right now. This year at the Golden Globes, which are useless, by the way, but at the Golden Globes, all the nominees for a Best TV Comedy, listen to the nominees: Casual, Mozart in the Jungle, Orange is the New Black, Silicon Valley, Transparent, and Veep. What do they all have in common? Yeah. None of them are the traditional networks.
Because traditional networks do not know how to make comedies anymore.
And a lot of these, like 2 of them are HBO, right? Not the traditional networks, because they have the HBO Go now is pretty much how everybody watches HBO now. But all the other ones are either Amazon, Netflix, Hulu original series, stuff like that. I thought that was very interesting.
It is, and it goes back to the reason I say that about network, because the network still tries to do the multicam sitcoms with the studio audiences and everything. They try that, and they don't do, like, I still think the reason why you have a single cam shows, most of those are all single cam, I think, too, right?
I think so.
They're all single cam as well, because you're not I've always been a fan of, I love Friends and Cheers as much as the next guy, but those days are over. And I think that even the last one I think was How I Met Your Mother. I'm a fan of letting me decide what I think's funny. Let me figure it out. If I laugh at my house, don't tell me some guy who's got some canned laughter is what I'm supposed to be laughing. That takes away from the experience. And I think that that's why all those choices you read are those type of shows. They trust in their writing, they trust in the actors, and they have original material. And they can get away with more. They can push the limits more than you can on regular network. Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. Veep is great, and stuff like that, and Silicon Valley is great. All that kind of stuff. My 2 favorite comedies, though, still of the current, although one just ended, is Parks and Recreation, a network comedy. Yeah. And I cannot help it. I am in love with Modern Family. The writing on Modern Family just kills me every time I watch it.
Also, still both single cam.
And both single cam shows?
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, that was it, wasn't it?
Yep.
Well, that'll do it for us, guys, for this installment of Mailbag. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back again tomorrow. Make sure you tune in. The little secret, we're actually going to record it right now, but it'll be on tomorrow. So make sure you check us out tomorrow on Sunday for that as well. I want to thank the people sitting at the table with me. First of all, of course, the lovely Natasha Martinez. Natasha, where can people find you online?
You guys can find me on Instagram at Natasha A. Martinez and on Twitter at NatashaLexis_.
And of course, Mr. Christian Harloff. Christian, where can people find you?
On Twitter and Instagram at Christian Harloff, and every Thursday here on this channel for Collider Jedi Council. Make sure you hashtag Collider Jedi Council, and we take some of your questions and we read them.
We haven't announced this on any of our shows. I don't know why. Everybody's been asking us, when are you putting up the original Star Wars DVD commentary? The first one's up. Just look on our main page under specials and editorials, and you'll find our Star Wars The New Hope DVD commentaries there. Also, Christian and I just did a reaction video to the new trailer for Star Wars Rebels, which is insanely
really good.
We want to thank Jonathan and Dennis behind the cameras, and thank you to you guys for making us a part of your day. My name is John Campia. You can follow me on Facebook and on Twitter simply at John Campia. That'll do it for us, guys. So until tomorrow, bye-bye.